Let's do it.
Let's do it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you want to sing your song?
Jane has a lot of animal friends. She's the best because she's lots of animal friends. And people friends too, and some of them aren't just men, which is cool. It's the Dane book.
Oh no. That's so cute. Really good. Hi, and welcome to Tortall Recall, the podcast where we reread the Tortall books and yell about them. This month we're talking about Wild Magic, the first book in the Immortals quartet. My name is Gus, and my pronouns are they, them. We're saying, what kind of kid we were, and I'd just like to say I've never been a horse kid, and I figured out that this is because I couldn't draw them. They're impossible to draw! So I was a cat kid, and later I was a wolf kid and a bird kid. I'm Amy. My pronouns are she, her. I was a Pokemon kid, but Gus, I was also going to say I wasn't a horse kid, but I did draw a lot of horses because I was very good at drawing horses. Nice. I'm gonna draw a horse right now. Don't tell me to prove it.
Okay. I will pass on the judgment of how good this horse is in a couple of minutes. This is Kelley. My pronouns are she, her, and I was a whisker child in Dane's words, or Tamara Pierce's words. I was definitely a cat kid.
Aww.
Love cats.
Mm-hmm. I'm Shelby. My pronouns are she, her, and I was definitely a wolf girl. Like one of the full-on, I think about half of my wardrobe was t-shirts with wolves on them. I definitely remember at least one birthday party that was a trip to a wolf sanctuary in Indiana. I was committed.
That sounds on brand.
That
sounds right.
Very nice. I like it.
I'm really nervous about drawing this horse.
It's good. It's looking good so far. First report looks good.
I guess we're going to start right in with First Adventure, which is where we talk about our background with the book. Amy, do you want to start? Okay, yeah, I have no background with this book, but one thing I do have background with is I bought the book online. Also, I do really quick want to say, all of you who just explained Dane to me by being oh, she has a lot of animal friends. Numair is there. He's weird. Don't ask questions about him. I'm really mad at you because this is not a book about animal friendship exactly, per se. It's also about being savage and rad as hell. So, but anyway, so you've all let me down. Anyway, so I got a version of this book online that's also a compendium of all 4 of the books, because that's what I did for Alana. The art on the Alana book was by Greg Newbold. You may remember that horse had a ton of significant face veins that were very disturbing. Got a book by the same artist! More horse veins!
Oh, that's very creepy.
Yeah, this horse looks nothing like Cloud. It's a black horse. It's very tall.
You're right. That is wrong.
This horse is twice Alana's size. Anyway, that's my background with the book.
My background with the book is, I guess I probably read it in 3rd grade or so. And then it was my absolute mostest favoriteest book because there were so many animals in it, and I love animals, and I loved it, and I love it forever, and I read it about once a year, and I have done that ever since 3rd grade. That's my background.
My background is not totally dissimilar. I also read it around 3rd grade, and while it's not necessarily my favorite series now, I'm pretty sure it was then. But also, it was the only Tamara Pierce book that I ever dressed up as a character for. I definitely had a Dane Halloween costume growing up.
Awesome!
And also, to speak more of merchandising, I also had a badger necklace, which, apparently magical necklaces, I did not notice this before. Does everyone have a magical necklace? We have 2 main characters with magical necklaces, which was just a great merchandising decision. But yeah, I had a little badger claw necklace that I would wear as a kid.
Wait, is that official merchandise?
Oh no, actually it was so unofficial I couldn't even find one, and my mother, who is a remarkably devoted mother, actually like commissioned one from some artist at some point when I was really obsessed with the series. So, thanks, Mom.
Aww.
It was great.
That's really sweet.
So I read all of these books like chronologically in order of publishing. So I think I must have read this when I was like in like 7th or 8th grade. But I guess really like the significant thing for me about these books is that they're the books that got my brother interested in the series. So they're the books that like that he read first and like that we talk about sometimes, and he just like loves them. So like they have like some like emotional significance for me there. And rereading this also, I was just like, why didn't I love this more looking back? Like what I mean, like I know that I love these books, but like I forgot just how much. They're so good. I haven't reread it a lot. So like just they're so good. I had forgotten.
Yeah, no, I actually also, I've reread, like, in adulthood, the Protector of the Small series and the, what's the Trickster's Choice series, but I've never reread these as an adult, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one side effect of these being the books that my brother loved is that all of my copies of these books are, like, 2nd or 3rd copies, because the ones that he read were literally in, like, 6 pieces each. And these are small books. These are not large books.
Oh, that's like the best kind of, like, that's the best testament to how much a book is loved, though, is just how many pieces is it in? Which pages are missing? Is it like 50% of them? Like, I have a copy of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince where it's just like the middle is gone. The middle's just gone. I don't know what happens in the middle of it anymore.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that mine are like in pretty solid condition because of the amount of rereads, and also like I got my best friend into all these book series too, and she doesn't have a copy of this series, so like half the time my books live at her house on her shelf. I also have one more point of interest on background for this book, which Amy and I think Shelby already know, but I went to go see Tamora Pierce at like an independent bookstore when I was like probably in like 4th or 5th grade, and I had her sign a business card of hers, which I then taped to the inside of this book, and on it she wrote Kelley, like, and then she wrote like the female sign rule ! Tamora Pierce.
Aww. That's so Tamora Pierce.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a code.
I think it says 10/11, so that can't be 2011 because that is way too recent. So really...
October 11th.
October 11th, unknown year.
Let's move into first test, where we summarize things and talk about what happened in this book and our general impressions.
Amy's horse is looking pretty good also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Horse update. It's good.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the perspective. It's like a 3/4 perspective, which is pretty challenging.
Oh,
wow. Anyway, so one thing that happens in this book is Dane is rad as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so it opens and we get 10 pages in, and Dane is just like she watched her family die. She meets Onoa, who's a hostler, and is like, I would also like to be a hostler. I'm an orphan now. Please take me in. And Onoa's like, well, if you leave me while I'm out there, you'll wish you died as a child. And Dane just laughs. Dane laughs in her face because Dane is metal. Because Dane is afraid of nothing. She's 13 years old and she could kill me.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this book is about how Dane is metal as hell, as far as I can tell.
I feel like this book is like Dane goes on an extended road trip and makes some friends.
Yeah, like a work-away road trip, and meets every famous person that exists.
And they, like, adopt her. Yeah.
I also just appreciate, the degree to which she kind of, like, has absolutely nothing to do or lose at the beginning, so she's just kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll go to Tortall. Yeah, sure, I'll stay in Tortall. Oh, you want me to, like, be your special wild magic person? Sure, don't got anywhere else to be. Like...
Yeah, I don't have any plans coming up. Why not?
I also, like, in terms of, like, meeting all the famous people, my absolute favorite thing was that Tamora Pierce could not resist, like, doing the exact same thing every time, which is, like, a cool new person rolls up, and Dana's like, wow, what a cool person who seems so down-to-earth and practical and just like me. Oh my god, they're the most famous person ever again! That surprises her, like, 10 times.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so the plot of this book is Dane meets a horse lady, Onawa, whom I love, and starts working for her and goes to Tortall, and learns that she has wild magic, even though she doesn't think she has magic, like every person who Tamora Pierce is going to write about, I guess. And meets Numair, who was a bird and isn't. And also, Immortals exist, and those are monsters that are just, like, walking around, and Dane murders their queen.
And then she goes on a road trip part 2 to another place, and then on the way she meets more animal friends, and then she gets there, and then there's suddenly a siege, and then she fights off the siege. Happy ending.
There's a kraken.
Yeah, she's 13 years old.
There's a kraken and a dragon, and I forgot that both of those things happened in this book.
Yeah, none of you told me about the kraken, the dragon, or the griffin.
The kraken or dragon or griffin.
I forgot about it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, okay, you're not allowed to tell me about the kraken, dragon, or griffins, or the Immortals, the Stormwings at all, but I would have been a lot more excited to start reading this book if you did. I'm just saying.
It's hard, though, because I feel like all of those things are, like, it's, like, part of the plot that they get, like, revealed.
Okay, but you know how you describe this book to me every time I mention this book? It's 3 words. You know what those 3 words are?
I love animals.
No, it's just animals, animals, animals.
I mean, if you consider the fact that the Immortals basically are animals, this was not incorrect and she didn't leave anything out.
They're people! They're people who are monsters.
People are animals.
Actually, I think it's firmly established in a somewhat odd way that it seems to be that the dragons are actually people. Or rather, lowercase p people. Whereas all of the other Immortals are not. Because they give us a nice classification system with, like, capable of education versus not.
Yeah, also, like, so what's up with all the Immortals being here now? I know I can't know that, but, like...
You cannot know.
What's up?
You can't know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're here
it's just
now.
A thing.
Yep. Here they are.
Yeah.
Now, here they are.
Yeah.
We're gonna see this and where this goes in the future, but one of the things that I like about this book is that it starts out and Dane is like, wow, all these immortals or all these creatures, they don't belong here. I can tell that they feel weird and they don't belong here and I don't like them. They don't belong here. And by the end of it, she's like, well, maybe there are predators and maybe they belong here.
I love that line so much.
Maybe there are predators is such a good part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Especially because, like they're really straightforward with her. Well, kind of really straightforward. Every time they're like, they sealed them away 400 years ago. So, like, yeah, obviously it's a change from the way things were at the beginning. Also, like, coming back to that part, I feel like even though they keep saying they were sealed away 400 years ago, like, once again, Tamora Pierce, like, I feel like has forgotten what she wrote, like, 50 pages ago. Because sometimes she's like, the greatest mage in the land sealed them away. And sometimes she's like, a bunch of people sealed them away.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's less of a discrepancy. And I read that more as being like, it happened 400 years ago. And, like, people aren't 100% sure what happened because it's, like, kind of, like, mythologized.
That's true. I do think that in these books, like in these early books especially, Tamora Pierce has a tendency to kind of make sure you know what she's talking about and what she's doing. In a lot of ways. I think this might be moving into our next segment, the name of which I forgot. So maybe let's guess. I'm not going to introduce the next segment for you, nor would I ever.
All right. Well, we're moving into Run the Dominion Jewels, our segment on, like, world building and, like, maybe, like, some more writing things.
Transition. Amy and I are in charge of incidental music.
Writing.
I'm going to isolate all of those and just use them repeatedly as transition noises.
You know what? Feel free. TM.
All right, cool. Guess we're doing that. Okay. So One thing that Tamara Pierce does with her writing in this book, and it's wildly different from time to time, is sometimes she'll say something like, Onawa prepared a long white cereal with spices that she called rice. And it's like, we do all call it rice. Like, you can say it's rice and Dane didn't know what that is. But then, okay, at different times, it'll be like Onawa will be in the middle of saying something. Like, for example, when she was talking about hedge witches, she said the word hedge witch, and then in the middle of her dialogue, there was a parenthetical that was not in dialogue, that was the definition of a hedge witch, and then it went straight back into the dialogue. Like, both of those things happened in pretty much the same chapter. Okay, am I the only person who disagrees with who?
No,
like...
I mean, we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah, okay.
Frankly, to me, that just sounds like middle grade fiction, which is what this is. Like, the, like, unnecessary, like, thing is like, well, okay, that is necessary for a lot of young kids. It's like, how are they supposed to know what a hedge witch is? Especially in this weird other world. Like,
Okay.
I interpreted kind of like you, like, Tamara Pierce, like, trying to be a little bit better at, like, tying up some loose ends of things that she realized maybe she didn't really explain well before, like in the previous set of books.
Yeah, and like, okay.
Just really clumsily.
I think that I'm willing to bring this kind of stuff up right now because I really enjoyed this book and the writing of it, and so when things like that happened, they really stood out to me and made me go like, who are you writing to right now? Is this Dane's perspective or is this the reader's perspective? And like, she is still sort of doing the hopping perspective things a little bit, but it's weird that the reader is one of them.
It feels more deliberate in this book than it did in the first Alana book.
Yeah, like one thing I really enjoyed about this book that I like kind of forgot and realized it was why it like sort of made it so hard for me to tell Amy what happened aside from just saying animals, 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 is like the way that she like reveals Dane's magics is sort of like by like each time like subtly dropping like Dane kind of, like, called to her friends. Dane had a whole conversation with this animal inside her head. Dane, like, talked with a million other animals, and she knew exactly what they were saying. Like, she just slowly, like, drops that more and more, like, reveals more of, like, Dane's perspective, and I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, it's so well done.
I love so much how Dane does not seem to realize that other people can't talk to animals. Like, the degree of obliviousness that she has is just, like, continues to mount as you're like, oh, okay, like, she's just very good with animals. That's reasonable to overlook. And then it's like, no, she's having very long conversations with them, and she still doesn't realize this is odd. And even once she does realize that she has magic, she keeps doing it. Like, there's a line really near the end of the book where she's like, talking to all the animals that have been pulled into the keep because of the siege. And she's like, honestly, you'd think people would have told them before. It's like,
I know, I read that.
It's just her worldview. That's a very difficult thing to change.
And I also love it because she, like, seems so... Like, I like that she thinks this is normal, but she's also clearly aware that, like, there's not, because it feeds into this whole sense that she has of being, like, abnormal and wrong throughout the books. So, like... On one level, I think she knows that what she's doing isn't normal, but on the other, she's been doing it for so long that she can't figure out what part of it isn't normal. And
I also just like the angry teen aesthetic that gives her, like, I can't understand what everybody keeps saying. I'm so different. I'm just like everybody else.
Everybody keeps turning into hawks or turning into men or going back and forth, and I am done with it.
Dane has no time for nonsense.
yeah, or on the other hand, like, I am the, like, classic teen, just like, I am so different, and no one could ever possibly understand me. Like, she does both of those, and it's
I love it.
amazing.
Just so good.
I love her.
I guess one other thing that I was kind of interested in, is this a section where we do world building?
Yeah.
Okay, one of my favorite things in this that I, like, haven't figured out, and honestly, even though I say I read these books once a year, like, I cannot remember if this is addressed in later books, so if it is, stop me. But I can't figure out, like, so here's Numair, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm, like, best friends with everybody in the kingdom, but he was not in the last series, so sometime in this like timeline in between this and the last series, he like waltzed in and oops, I like threw out my headphones. He waltzed in, he was like, "Hello everybody, I'm your best friend now. I'm the most magicest wizard in the land," and totally established himself.
My fan theory is Numair wanted to be friends with George and Alana and figured out where they lived and became that neighbor in a sitcom who's always leaning in through the window. Like, howdy neighbors. I baked some bread for you guys. Ate half of it on the way here, but there's half left.
I mean, he's also a super dramatic wizard, so it's not like, I'm just your next door neighbor. It's, I've moved into that empty tower in your land so that I can be a freaking sorcerer in a tower.
I imagine him like, yeah, like suddenly like apparating like to the middle of the room being like, "Oh, hello."
You guys having breakfast? You mind feeding one more?
It's just me again. I like tried to do a little bit of timeline. So at the beginning of the book, Onoa said that the Rioters were formed 7 years ago. So I imagine that it's at least 7 years after the last book, probably a little bit more if Thea was queen for a little bit.
A little bit later, they say that there's been like universal schooling for 9 years, so I think it's been at least 9.
Oh, okay. And then they said Numair changed his name from Aaron Draper 8 years ago, so I assume that's when they know. Wait. I think that's when he showed up. So I guess he's had 8 years to make friends, but I still can't really figure out how he went from like not being there to being like biffles with everybody.
Well, everybody wants to be friends with him because he's super powerful.
Yeah, I think it's a very well established thing in this world that like the cool people are just friends with all of the other cool people, and like because he's like, you know, one of the most powerful wizards in all of the world, of course he's going to be friends with the king and like the coolest and best knight in all of the world and the coolest and best spy master in all of the world, like duh.
You know, he's magic, and as horse books and horse media have taught us for years, friendship is magic.
Oh my god, you're right!
Guys,
Wow.
quit horsing around.
My mind has been blown. Wow. That was amazing. I guess it did only take Dane, like, whatever this like, the time in this book was, like, several months to also become best friends with all the coolest people in the land, so... And
that's counting the fact that she was, like, very resistant to the idea of, like, these people being able to be friends with her at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, oh, all these people are friends with each other. I'm just gonna go walk off into the woods and sulk.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like similar to Alana, where she like shows up at the palace and like all of a sudden like all the coolest kids are like, our new best friend. It's like the same thing. Like Dane waltzes in and like suddenly they're all like, wow, look at this 13-year-old.
It's great.
Yeah. Your best friend.
Except for like the two people who Tamara Pierce is like very careful to kind of code as being materialistic and like rude or whatever.
Should move on to something really serious.
Yeah.
Well, I totally failed in doing a smooth transition here earlier when we were talking about rice, but that rice line also got me because, like, they're very firmly establishing that there is rice in this world, like, that Onoa somehow can buy, but there's no rice in these countries. Like, there's nowhere to, like, grow rice, so they're importing rice, which is super expensive. Why are they doing that? And not only that, but there's a later mention of an orange, so I really want to know what the trade networks look like here. And also, why does Dane, a relatively poor commoner, have an orange? Like, oranges.
Yeah, also Fruitwatch 2K18.
Yeah, really.
We decided when Amy was reading this, we were in the same room, and Amy started Fruitwatch 2K18.
Mm-hmm. So Fruitwatch 2K18 is, I thought that the only fruit that was named was apples and only if a horse was there. But then Kelley found figs and oranges.
Mm-hmm. The same oranges you were talking about.
But then it's still like a roll with fruit inside and there's still fruit juice. So what's up?
We thought that maybe like pirate swoop could be in like southern France or like Sicily of Tortall. So they could technically grow citrus, maybe.
Yeah, like if it's in the lower Europe part. My theory was Florida, but Kelley kept yelling at me.
I debunked it.
You didn't debunk it.
With yells.
You just yelled at me. So, like, it could, like, Tortall could feasibly have territories that are in, like, the southern France / northern Italy or southern Italy region of fake Europe that it's in.
Fantasy Europe.
Fantasy Europe, I apologize.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if we're looking at this like it maps onto, you know, the real world, then you'd probably have the Great Inland Sea as, like, the Mediterranean. It's basically
Yeah.
means the exact same thing.
Well, but Pirate Swoop is nowhere near the Great Inland Sea.
Yes, you're correct about that.
Yeah, I find it actually relatively hard to believe that the Pirate Swoop could have a Mediterranean climate. It's too far north.
I just thought, like, where would Numair want to live? And I was like, southern France! That's why I made it.
I mean, fair. I mean, I think, yes, if we look at this from a character perspective, we just have to assume that that overwrites the actual, like, physical location of Pirate Swoop. And by his force of personality, it is, in fact, southern France.
You know, he has a lot of magic.
He's a fancy boy.
He's so fancy.
The other world building thing we need to do is our very fast linguistics plus bio. Now that we have some other majors here, oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I'm so ready.
Yeah, I'm the only linguist prime, I think. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be in the minority for once?
Oh gosh, terrifying.
To be fair, I am still a linguistics major, so we are still 50% of this podcast.
Yeah, true. So for linguistics things, I did do a Tortall swear watch.
I was doing the same thing.
Okay, so I found my favorite one is horse lords willing, but also the fact that bastard is apparently a Tortall swear.
Well, the one that actually got me was, I'm not actually even sure it was really a swear, was as sure as the crooked god cheats.
Yeah.
Which is a
Yes.
good line, but also I just love it as, like, it and all of the associated swearing is, like, because they have, like, polytheistic religion, they can use their swears and their, like, lines like that to be such more, like, firm social markers than we can. So it's not just, like, are you the kind of person who swears or not? It's, like, are you the kind of person who swears with crooked god swears, or are you the kind of person who swears with, like, the mother swears? Like, that is such precise social marking. Like, I love it.
It's so good. Yeah. Also, at one point, someone mentioned the graveyard hag
Yes.
in one of their swears, and I'm so excited, guys.
Yeah, what was it? It was like, what is it, like hags? Where is it?
What dice did the graveyard
Yeah.
hag roll? Somebody might have read this book too many times.
Oh my god.
I think it was when the Kraken showed up. I think it was
Yeah.
near.
The fairly mild, I believe, Tortall swear, odds bobs.
Yeah.
One, I love it a lot. But two, it's such a, like, a mild and not like world building-y. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not, like, related to something that's, like, specific to these books, you know? That every time I read it, I'm like, wait, is that a swear in the real world?
Amy and I tried translating it into, like, a positive swear, like, instead of heck yeah, like, Bob's yeah.
Oddments Roberts.
No, did you look it up? Because now I'm really curious whether...
Oh, I think it's a real thing.
Because, like,
Really?
to me
Yeah.
it sounds like antiquated, but, like, a real thing. So I'm trying to...
Yeah.
Please Google it and find out for
I am
us.
Googling as we speak.
Go to Edom Online. Yeah. I can go to Edom Online. Oh gosh, it's not on Tortall not on Edom Online, and the third search result, if you just search Odds Bobs, is Tamara Pierce, the Immortals 2nd edition on Google Books.
Ooh, but it says one of Dane's favorite expression, odds, is a contraction form of gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gods, and then Bobs is probably from Bits and Bobs, and also there was this whole trend with Cockney rhyming slang
Oh,
that I'm
no,
sure
no,
that...
it's from a corruption of God's body.
Of course.
Oh!
What?
Oh my gosh, wait, and then they not maliformed, but they, what's the word for when you switch consonant sounds, and that's how you... Oh gosh, what's the word for that?
Spoonerisms?
Yes, but there's, like, a specific linguisticsy terms, but
But we're gonna stick with spoonerisms because it's a great word.
and also because I can't remember right now, and if I say the wrong thing, I think that my professors will come physically manifest in here and carry me away. Anyway, so that's our very fast linguistics.
Yes, very fast bio now, where me and Kelley confirmed that absolutely all of the biology in this is 100% accurate, and it's really impressive that she did her research. Right? Right, Kelley?
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond mammals are furry?
Well, first of all, animals are clearly all capable of extremely complex thought and can in fact speak in your mind, if you are special enough.
I think so. The thing that I was thinking about this is she makes it confusing, right? Because Dane herself is like confused about whether she's speaking with her voice or her mind. So sometimes she has Dane like having like conversations that she like types out in language, but sometimes she says like the animal like showed her a thought picture. Mm-hmm. So like, and so it's hard to like reconcile like how much I'm like not mad, but like mad at her for like giving animals like the exact same like cognitive processes and like speech processes as humans. Because like she was like when she talks about Dane talking to the whale, she was like Dane like showed her like the whales like an image of herself like embroidered with her ideas and emotions, but then she was like the whales talk back to her in English and said sentences.
That is, to be fair, there's another book series where people talk to animals sometimes. It's called Animorphs by Kelley Applegate. And there is an encounter with a whale at one point that goes exactly the same as that, pretty much. Also, I do have one quick linguistics bio crossover, which is at one point, when the first time Dane sees a whale, she says, "Is that a fish?" And Miri, who's with her, says, "No, it suckles its young." Which is not how that works. What you say is, "That's a whale." And then you can say, "It's a mammal," which is different from the classification of fish. That's not how she was using the word fish.
You know, they spend a lot of time in this book going on about how great the Tortall education system is, and I think here they're just really emphasizing that they all get biology instruction and can tell you, like, what group any animal belongs to.
Perfect.
Yeah, also later in the book, they do make math important again, just like they did in First Adventure. Because while Dane's trying to figure out with her friends, the bats, where all the people are, it just makes math important one more time. And I appreciate that as world building. Just in Tortall, math is important, kids. So learn your math.
The one other, like, species speaking thing that I wasn't sure about, so I feel like the one thing that she hasn't, like, done to offend me in terms of animal communication is I don't think she's had, like, different species, like, talk to each other and talk thought, or, like, whatever, in speech or, like, in thought. I'm not sure they've cross-communicated. I think they've maybe only gone... Cloud. Have they talked to each other? Have they both just talked to Dane?
They've talked to each other with Dane.
I mean, yeah, the problem here is we wouldn't be able to tell whether in the absence of a magical I just tried to say person and human at the same time. In the absence of a magical person, they would be able to do it.
That's true, because, like, theoretically she could be, like, a conduit, and, like, it's already been established that she's, like, changed Cloud's mind. I'm doing air quotes to, like, make it more human-esque.
Plus, I do think it's really important to remember that, like, because, as you said earlier, because we're seeing all of this through her mind, I think she is translating a lot of things into words that are not necessarily words. Mm-hmm. And so while, you know, a dog and a horse can absolutely not talk to each other in words, they can. Like, it's not like there is no cross-species communication, and, like, they absolutely could, especially, you know, a dog and, like, a horse, especially a dog that's used to helping out a person in charge of horses, may well be used to communicating in more of a "let me herd you over here" kind of way.
For sure. The one other thing, I guess this is sort of world building or like quick biology, I'm obsessed with the fact that Tamora Pierce like made the whales be mean, because I feel like every single book is like, whales, the most magical, compassionate creature. In this book it was like, whales, they are not helpful.
The whales were not mean, oh my god. The whales were pacifists, and she was trying to get them to fight a freaking war that had nothing to do with them. I may be getting a little loud, sorry.
I didn't mean it quite like mean, but I feel like usually like it's like, whales are the best. Whales are so compassionate and great. And in this one it was like, you know, whales are just whales.
Whales are willing to let you die.
I like that. I also thought Tamora Pierce was like maybe being like, I also like read that like pacifism as like, maybe, like, a little bit judgy. Like, she seemed to have the whales be, like, super extreme pacifists and to sort of, like, have, Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually one of the most jarring points to me in this entire book. In part because I don't know if I've mentioned, I definitely haven't mentioned it in the podcast. I don't know how many of you guys have heard this, but I grew up in a super pacifist neighborhood in a way that definitely shaped me. Like, think it was not a Quaker neighborhood, but they were all Brethren, which is a similar peace church. And so, like, I grew up around very, very strong pacifists. And so that part was super jarring, both in the, like, pacifism is definitely immoral implication, but also in, like, it was also jarring within the context of the book, because you went from Dane being like, I can't possibly let these animals die for me, even though they desperately want to, to, like, these other animals that were nowhere nearby, don't know me at all, and, like, don't care about this, should definitely die for us. Like, or not die for us, but, like, break their deep-held values for us. And I, like, should, like, very strongly pressure them to do that. That was just, like, a weird 180-degree turnaround.
There was, like, Dane has this character growth arc sort of thing in this book that really happens, like, during the battle, where she's learning that self-defense is important and that you have to let your friends defend themselves, and that the whales being pacifists was part of that arc, and, like, her trying to convince them was part of that arc.
Yeah, I guess it was a little odd because it was almost like it was a overcorrection thing. Like, so I think you're right that there was absolutely an arc from her going, like, I need to do what's best for these animals, and what they want doesn't have such an impact on it, to her being like, no, even though these animals are not humans, they still have agency, and they still have kind of a right to self-determination that I was not allowing them. The weird part is that with the whales, like, it's this part where she's overcorrected to, actually everyone should do this thing, and then she has to recorrect to, like, wait, no, actually, like, their agency also includes the right to choose pacifism.
I thought that it was just because she doesn't know any whales, you know? Like, she grew up with every other kind of animal, and then she sees a whale and is just like, oh, that thing's big.
She is very much in, like, the mindset of, like, if I know them, then they're my friend. And, like, I can't let my friends die.
Yeah, but she doesn't know whales, so she's willing to ask a whale to, like, knock over a boat for her, because first of all, I don't think she knows that whales can be damaged. And secondly, because, like, she doesn't have a schema for, like, when a whale is harmed. Like, she's never seen a harmed whale, and she also, like, doesn't have the full understanding of a whale's life that she has for pretty much every other native animal.
Well, I mean, also, I think there's a bit of weird in that arc about, like, the general idea that this is self-defense for the animals, right? Like, it makes sense to me that, like, her friends should be allowed to make the choice to help her. Like, I think that's a reasonable self-agency argument, but I find no reliable basis for the idea that these animals are going to be worse off under the, like, Carthagi people than they're going to be off, like, Tortallans. Like, we have no evidence that, like, I don't know, Carthagi people are just, like, super anti-environment, or, like, I don't, like, there's no reason, like, even if it's a very violent war, like, sometimes violent wars are better for animals than stable, like, society, because that means the humans have less impact and control over the environment. So that part was just like, sure.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I felt really uncomfortable about that too, and I was not sure if that was just, like, from my own perspective, like, I love animals, I don't like seeing animals get hurt, but I also feel like the same thing, like, Tamara Pierce, like, in terms of, like, your friends have agency, you should let them do what they want, like, that makes sense. But in terms of the fact that, like, Dane's friends are animals, like, for me, like, it was the same thing. Like, she really emphasized, like, these animals, like, have a super strong comradeship with, like, the people who already live there. Like, I guess, like, whatever, in the context of, like, fantasy books, like, right, she's friends with these animals, but, like, in the context of the real world, they're not really.
Right. Well, and in the context of Dane, it makes sense. In the context of everyone else, no. Like,
yeah, like, the animals were gonna eat, like, a bunch of the chickens. Like, I don't know why those chickens would be like, yes, I must defend. And, like, I don't know. I also, like, that reminds me too, like, sort of, like, what about Dane, like, compels animals, like, to help her no matter what, sort of? Like, if Dane's in danger, like, all these animals that don't even know her will be like, must help! Like, not like they would help any other animal that way, or even, like, a member of their own species necessarily. It's like Dane is, like, the super special, most special animal friend.
I think that does have to do with, you know, like, her wild magic.
She is magic. That is the thing.
Yeah, like, it's not just that it lets her communicate with them, but that, like, they do, like, see her as special, and that, like, right? I mean, like, that's my general impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I've just been, like, thinking about it, like, when they rush to her rescue all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it makes sense. It's goofy.
Yeah, no, it is goofy.
But I like
It's like, although even I'd say from an animal perspective, it makes, like, some amount of sense. Like, she is kind of, like, their savior, too. Like, you know, like, she can magic, like, she sticks up for them among the two-leggers, and, like, she can heal them, and, like, she is a naturally kind of mythic creature in their perspective. So, like, I feel like that's a reasonable reaction as an animal to a magic girl.
Oh, I don't think this is biology, but it's science in general, so I have a question. I meant to Google this. But I did not. Are cold temperature and salt water conductive to things other than magic in the real world?
Salt water is conductive to electricity. I don't think cold temperature is particularly conductive. Shelby, do you know?
I don't know.
You know who might know is my good friend, the internet.
Yeah, I was just doing that.
Okay, I'm sorry for, like, derailing us.
You're asking the real questions.
Thermal conductivity increases as the temperature decreases. That's thermal conductivity.
Compared to its resistance at room temperature, copper's resistance is higher when it is red hot and lower when it is very cold.
So it is the opposite.
The idea that something's resistance is lower when it's cold might have something to do with it. But who knows? We're not science here.
Yeah, it does seem that according to this, magic and electricity are in fact different.
Oh.
That's what I'm getting.
Interesting.
I feel like it was convenient.
Yeah.
For 200 years. So.
I don't remember this coming up again. Except for maybe the salt water, but I don't remember the cold.
I don't think I do either. Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on it and see what else happens magically, scientifically. I just wanted to know, honestly. This isn't like a criticism or anything. I just want to know.
No, sometimes we just have healthy
Sometimes we have
scientific curiosity. So. Okay, so there's a new kind of magic in town. Its name is wild magic, which is named that either because of wild animals or, like Numair says, just one time when it's convenient for him, because it's unpredictable. Yeah, I'm really interested in how different the types of healing are and why people with wild magic do healing when it's so prohibitive and there is another kind of magic out there that is not.
I mean, to be fair, I think only Dane does, effectively. Like, that's not 100% true, but for the most part they don't, is the answer.
Dane is just really powerful and special.
Yeah, super special.
Oh, but she keeps saying that she's just like everyone else and not magic. How could she be powerful and special or a hero?
How could she?
Could someone like her be a hero?
No. No.
God.
No, but yeah, so the fact that you cannot I find it really interesting that you cannot discern wild magic using regular magic also, or like you can, but you have to be familiar with what it is going in, because Dane's mother didn't think she had any magic at all, and Dane built a terrible inferiority complex within herself from that also, so whoops.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. I like that there are different things other than the gift.
Yeah, me too. Are there more types of magic after this? Don't answer if it's like a
Do we
spoiler,
know about Amy? Plug your ears. Just in
okay,
case.
Goodbye.
Oh, that's true. You can just take out your headphones.
Do we know about the site yet? Because George has it. So, like, it feels like it should be relevant, but maybe we haven't, like, world building built it yet.
I always felt like it was kind of, like, weirdly just, like, dropped in those books.
I do think it maybe is one of those things where she started out with the site being
Mhm.
just kind of a kind of the gift or a part of the
Mhm,
gift, and then
mhm.
it kind of becomes its own genre of magic once she decides that's a thing she's doing.
Yeah. We'll,
Yeah, that sounds
we'll
about
watch
right.
for it. We'll watch for it.
Okay, can I give Amy her head
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
Oh, but when they're doing the thing and Numera's like, look at all of the like energy and things. I will help you see the magic. Rocks have magical energy.
I know, I like that. Magic rocks.
I mean, this is a different world, but the Emelon rocks are super magical. Like, there's a whole thing about magical Emelon rocks.
Oh, there is.
So, like,
yeah.
in, like, the context of, like, ambient magic, everything has magic. Like, I feel like it's very consistent with the way she writes things.
There is. Yeah, it's consistent and I like it a lot. I just had
It
forgotten
is
that
pretty
the
great.
rocks have magic.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, do they possess magic or are they magical?
No, I think it's more in the sense of like they have potential energy.
Oh, I like the idea that the rocks like are low-key doing spells.
I like that.
But
Yeah.
just like spells that rocks care about.
We can always dream.
Let's put a pin in magic rocks for next episode.
I actually don't know if you're being serious because I don't remember what happens in Wolf Speaker.
Oh, well, then I will not elaborate in any way.
Yeah.
Mhm. Is this where I just say my fan theories or?
Oh, by the way, I found a really good way of responding to all of Amy's fan theories so that she can't tell whether or not you know she's right or not.
Uh-huh.
And it's just say, but what if they were an animorph?
Uh-huh.
Amy, you can absolutely say your fan theories whenever they're relevant.
Okay, so the only reason this is what relevant is because you mentioned Wolf Speaker. This fan theory is based on the title of the book, Wolf Speaker. And it's when Dane was hanging out with those wolves, she wasn't running around as a human on all fours. She was a wolf. She was just being a wolf.
What if they're animorphs?
Thank you.
That's possible. And that's why everybody kept trying to kill her, is because she was a wolf.
Or an animorph.
Or an animorph. That's possible. I mean, after 2 hours, she would have been stuck, but...
Yeah, this is very useful. Thank you, Kelley. I appreciate it anyway.
That's how I managed to live in the same house as Amy while reading these books.
She's been doing great. My other fan theory is that the badger is Dane's dad.
It's a great theory. Maybe they're animorphs.
Thank you.
So good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
I guess I have maybe one more world building thing to talk about. We could also save this because I feel like it might be brought up more later. But I'm kind of curious, and this is like what I sort of forgot, about like how the divine realms work, like spatially, right? Because sort of like they've already referenced that like each land has like different deities. Do they all live together in the same divine realms? And the Stormwings were like, oh, we have our own gods. Do they also live in those divine realms with the people gods?
This is a really good question.
This is also a question that I feel like I can say without spoiling Amy. I don't, like, because I don't remember the spoilers, but it feels like this may come up in the fourth book, which is entitled The Realm of the Gods.
Yeah, I think that might be true too, and I just can't remember. So
It's a good idea to bring these things up now so that we can both keep an eye on them.
Yes.
And because we have just read this book and we're discussing it as in some ways as if we have not read the others.
Amy's horse is looking really good. She's doing some masterful shading right now.
Do. Horse update.
Yeah, so why don't we like end this episode?
Okay, so I'm not gonna take the reins. Peter's gonna love this episode.
Why don't we put this on pause? I know I already made that one, but read it again.
They don't have pause.
I'm not just
Horses
making
are
horse jokes.
categorically different.
It's about animals.
Oh my god. You just don't share my talons.
Oh. Oh no.
I don't know. I'm not gonna let you put a muzzle on
Oh
me,
my god.
you know? Don't put me on a short leash. That's something you do with
we
dogs.
already did the rain one. I keep wanting to reuse it, but I can't.
Yeah, also don't take my puns.
Not taking your
Just
puns.
repeat your puns if you
I
don't
only
have
have
them.
that one. I can't do it again. I need to wait a little bit longer.
We're going to move on to Palace Gossip and read some listener mail. Hi.
Sorry, Kelley made a good pun.
I made a good pun.
Tell the people your pun.
Oh, okay. So Amy was really eager for listener mail, so I said, Amy, you are chomping at the bit.
Gus made a face. They don't like this.
just a lot of them. Okay. Okay, so
Quantity over quality.
I think we're going to read a couple similar ones, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to, like, discuss them, but they're just some interesting points that people brought up. Twitter user Roboroy tweeted at us and said that, you talked some about the Khmer, and I did want to point particularly to the Khmer/Cambodia as almost definitely being the specific group drawn from.
Okay, this was interesting to me because, like, I totally get the phonetic thing there, and I think that's quite possible, but also, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I did not reread the a lot of books, because I didn't want to be angry. The Khmer, as far as I remember, are like a nomadic, like, herding people? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, they live on horses and, like, really like horses. So I was like, I think that she might be right that that's who they're named after, but if they are, like, I don't know if Tamara Pierce just really gets groups in Asia confused.
Right.
But I always associated them with either, like, you know, various, like, Mongolian, like, nomadic cultures or, like, Central Asian nomadic cultures, but absolutely not South Asia.
Yeah, that was also my general impression, but I can't pretend to know much about.
I went to go look it up just to see if the Khmer, like, had more associations with horses than I could tell, because they're on a, like, river delta. Like, you don't generally have nomadic horse cultures and river deltas together, so I don't know.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know. This might just be a thing where, you know, it doesn't map perfectly. There's some, like, this might just be a product of, like, when you're writing a fantasy culture, sometimes you, like, draw things from different sources and make mishmashes of things in ways that aren't necessarily the best way to do things. I don't know if that was, like, if that's the actual inspiration for the name of the Khmer.
Right, no, I mean, it's entirely possible she just accidentally made a name that sounds like the Khmer.
Yeah.
Like it's that is entirely possible. But also, you never know with Tamara Pierce. She may also have just confused North Asia and South Asia.
People do that sometimes, you know? The US is not great about, like,
anything that's not the United States and sometimes Europe. Yeah, I think that this is probably, like, as you said, I don't know enough about the Khmer yet to make a judgment, but it seems like an amalgam of, like, just a bunch of stuff that people in this area that she's imagining could feasibly do. She probably did research on other cultures at one point, but I don't think that she specifically was trying to mirror any group with them, but that's just, like, me talking as a reader who doesn't know anything.
The series does, I think, tend to map pretty closely to real world societies, or, like, closer than a lot of fantasy does. And I think it does it in, like, a fairly deliberate way.
Yeah, although often a relatively casual way, in that I would definitely believe that the degree to which it maps is a lot based on how much she knew about the culture to begin with. So, like, Japan, which we will get to later, Fantasy Japan, is a lot closer to Japan than, like, you know, than I would expect, like, you know, for example, like, the Carthage Empire to be to its real world equivalents.
Yeah, true.
Although, actually, we'll get to which ones those are, I assume, in a later episode. Because I think there are a couple different mappings.
More road trips.
Oh, there will be some more road trips.
But yeah, which is all to say that I think it's entirely plausible that she did not actually bother to map the Khmer to a very specific group, but was rather like Asian nomadic culture. By Asian nomadic culture, I mean that as it exists in the American consciousness, which is like
not very nuanced.
No.
Yep.
In a similar vein, Princess Court 223 on Tumblr sent us a letter.
Thank you.
Asking, do you think there's any connection to the Mithran order in Tortall and either the Roman god Mithras? Is that right? Anyways, or Persian Mithra, or maybe this was just a cool name that Tamara Pierce stumbled upon. I
don't know a ton about this, but so according to the looking into it I did, the Mithran order was initially associated with the sun specifically because of their correlation with like justice and truth, and they aren't like an especially pronounced, like as far as I can tell, they aren't especially what's the word, like distinct in the pantheon, like forward in the pantheon. Mm-hmm. It seems like maybe it's a cool word that's sort of related to something, and then she ran with it.
Yeah, I think that's very par for the course. In other words, she took the name, she didn't take the god.
Yeah, or like there's also this thing where it could have started as something more related and then quickly grown into its own thing when she started working with it. But because like there is like the sun connection, but the sun connection is super tenuous. That's all I've got.
That's pretty much all I've got too.
Cool. So it's a cool word though.
Yep.
Like cool sounds.
And I do think there is something fun about like, you know, it's the same way with J.K. Rowling and the fact that like all of her names have like a tangential reason that the name exists generally. Like it's never just a random name, it always has some connection. And it's connected to that kind of in general like transformative ethos of like, you know, it's the same in comics fandom or like fanfic fandoms. Like it is always cooler to source something that has a connection rather than just make it up. Making it up is boring and not clever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for your letters.
Yeah, thanks for your letters.
Thank you.
We have a couple more that we're going to answer in the next episode.
Yeah, also I think we should start saying the dates of that we have collected our social media from.
Oh yeah.
So this was all collected between February 17th and today, March 31st, 2018.
That's correct.
Yes. We record our episodes in advance, so if you don't hear your name, that's just because time hasn't happened for us yet.
Yep.
Hello from
the past.
Woo.
Thank you to everybody who has interacted with us on any of our social media or sent us any emails. And special thanks to everybody who has reviewed us. We've gotten a few new reviews, so thank you to Nerd Named Ray, Persperspec, Parma Lover, Sans Savvy, and NM92 for reviewing us on iTunes. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I know sometimes it takes a lot of energy. Let's see. And everybody who's interacted with us on Twitter in the last two months? So that's Ziggy T. Schutz, Indigo Han, Writing Rissa, Mosslam, Green Hag, Dorian Eyes, Ada Niverville, UFO_Sparrow, Legend of Divya, Heliological, oh hi Abby, and
hi Abby,
and Deidre Loves Jim. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You're the cat's meow.
Oh.
Hey!
Oh, man.
You guys having fun yet?
I'm having so much fun. I love puns. If you also want to interact with us on the internet, you can send us an email at tortallrecall@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @tortallrecall. Our Tumblr is tortallrecall.tumblr.com. And you can find us on iTunes or wherever you download podcasts. And please leave a review. We love hearing from you. We love hearing feedback.
Our music is Greensleeves by Zeta.
Our website is tortallrecall.com. You can also listen to us there.
I think all we have now is our sign-off, which we have two people who haven't been on an episode yet, and we have two halves of an episode.
Shelby, do you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
Okay.
Shouldn't have asked that question.
Till next time, Tortellini.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
A plus reading right there.
A little bit extra
Thank you.
alliteration for a bonus.
Uh-huh.
Anybody want to make some puns?
I'm so glad you asked. But aren't you concerned that this podcast is going to take a turn for the worse? That's a type of bird.
Oh, a turn with a T-E-R-N.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
very good.
Oh.
No, this time we'll sparrow you.
Oh.
Welcome to the Puncast.
I'm sorry, did you say puncast?
Yes.
Good.